if we start with the Texans, who need a million things, starting with, who you think, what moves you think they should make in the offseason?
The Texans really need to solidify the offensive line and pick up more talent on defense. I know that's asking a lot, but I feel like for a team like the Texans, you don't want to get your quarterback before your team is ready. And I feel like this is a team that should find a bridge quarterback. If there's a quarterback at the top, take him. But if you don't find the right guy, you don't find a guy who you think is going to be your franchise guy, go ahead and start building an offensive line or get a bridge quarterback. So the route they should go, draft a young quarterback, sign someone like Carson Wentz to get beat up in the first year so you can spend this year and next year rebuilding that offensive line. And then you have to trade Brandon Cooks. He's probably your best asset this year. He's definitely going to walk. So believe is he a free agent or is he
No, they
still
got
in
to
a
trade him.
contract? Yeah, so he's demanding a trade. So you immediately trade Brandon Cooks, flip him for probably a third round pick or a nice complimentary piece, and then get someone for him on defense. And then you already have a great running back, so you don't need to worry about it there. So I think
Mhm.
getting three good receivers, offensive line, two good edge rushers, two good defensive tackles, a good linebacking core, and then getting four good corners and two safeties. I feel like then the Texans can actually be a legitimate team. But for now, they need everything.
Yeah, I will say, believe it or not, they actually had a top 10 passing defense past year. Their secondary is not too bad.
Okay.
Derek Stingley, he was the third overall pick. He was banged up this year. I think give him an opportunity. I think I think they can draft a quarterback this year, but what I would if I really want to think about what they should do, I think you have a good idea with them thinking potentially they have that second overall pick, and there's a lot of really great defensive players there. Jalen Carter, Will Anderson should be available there. I have a team that'll be drafting number one overall later that we'll talk about, but they have a chance to draft a CJ Stroud or a Bryce Young. Uh, Excuse me. As I'm looking at the quarterback draft, I think there's a lot of risk there with Bryce Young, really short. We have players like Kyler Murray
Yeah.
and some other players. Short players typically don't excel in the NFL. There's some unicorns like Drew Brees and Russell Wilson. However, so I think second overall pick, they should have Bryce Young. And then with their 12th overall pick, they should go wide receiver because their wide receivers without Brandon Cooks is going to be terrible because all of their other receivers, like Philip Dorsett,
Mhm.
like Nico Collins, like Kiki Cutie, they're probably not going to be there next year because they're all free agents. So I think they draft a quarterback and then they sign somebody like an Andy Dalton, like a Joe Flacco, or like a Case Keenum.
Yeah, and I think you have right now they signed a defensive head coach and
DeMeco Ryans, yep.
yeah, you signed DeMeco Ryan. So I feel like there's a lot of really good players in free agency, and the Texans are going to have a ton of cap space because they're not paying anybody right now. So for me, if I'm the Texans, what do? You mentioned it. Already have a really good pass defense, and it was pretty decent last year. I'm going to shore that up and go after Jesse Bates. And then I feel like another really good signing for someone who they should pay out the bag for to make that defense legitimate. Go out there and get Javon Hargrave at defense and spend your free agency money on defense and then go receiver, offensive line, and then see if you can pick up another nice receiver to go along with him. But overall, you're probably going to have to draft a quarterback. You definitely are going to. And then getting someone like Javon Hargrave, seeing if you can get someone like Jamal Dean or Jesse Bates, then you have a legitimate defense and you have a very good young head coach who I think is going to be a make or break. And if he's as good as Robert Saleh, definitely like that for the Texans, but you still have to figure out that quarterback. And then once you do that, you have to get him that stud receiver in the draft.
Yeah. And I think some of the players that I would think about, their running defense was the worst in the league. Literally gave up 170 yards a game. And so I look at them. They got the Larry Ogunjobis of the world, the Levante Davids, Michael Brockers. I would sign somebody like that in free agency. If Levante David, you're gonna have to give Levante David like
A bag.
a record breaking contract. And then veteran wide receivers available. They got like the Jujus of the world. They got the Adam Lazards of the world. They can figure out what they want to do. And then tight ends, both of their tight ends are free agents this year. I think if there's a way that they can get, you know, someone like a Mike Gesicki, who I believe is probably going to get franchise tag, but if he's available, get him.
Yeah.
But I think what you should do is try to build the team around the quarterback. Like, and I mean, the defense that applies the pressure, takes the pressure off the quarterback, and then have it so when the quarterback actually does play, he has someone to throw to besides Damian Pierce.
Right.
So for me, Bryce Young with a second round pick, or a second overall pick, or CJ Stroud. Um, and then 12th overall pick, they go wide receiver.
Yeah, and I like going wide receiver because what that does is you have someone who's going to be able to draw double teams on the defense and draw safety help. And then I was really impressed with Damian Pierce's ability to run that well without a good offensive line.
Hmm.
And then DeMeco Ryans going to obviously hire an excellent coaching staff. The fact that you can run it without a good offensive line and then you'll be able to pick up a stud receiver, I feel like just get at least a decent left tackle and then some edge protection and get a mobile quarterback. And then we've seen some guys like Joe Burrow be able to thrive when they have a really good receiver like someone like Jamar Chase. And then they can also run the football a la Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine, just have that dump off. So gonna have to help your young quarterback by having a lot of screens, running back plays, and then also your next focus has to be offensive line and tight end. And then I feel like there's good enough free agents where you'll be able to take care of some of those holes. Like Tremaine Edmonds is someone who's a free agent that you could bring in. I like that addition of Michael Brockers just to bring some veteran presence in there. And then you sign someone like Jesse Bates. That's how you rebuild in your first year with the Houston Texans. That's how you're going to be successful. And that's how you avoid the pitfalls of trying to the guy who coached the Panthers, blanking on his name.
Um, Matt Rule.
Yeah, that's how you avoid the pitfalls of Matt Rule because Matt Rule came out and said he went on Rich Eisen and he was like, "Oh, well, I was the head coach. They said the time frame for rebuilding is 3 or 4 years. That's just not realistic in the NFL. If you're really bad by your third year, you're going to get booted." And he was like, "I got all this young talent, but if I knew we were supposed to be competitive earlier, I would have got some players in free agency." Well, it's like, yeah, that's not how it works in the NFL. And I think DeMeco Ryans is going to realize that and be aggressive and go out there and get some free agents. It's just the question of who's going to want to sign in Houston, and you're going to have to overpay for a lot of guys. So,
Yeah, which is why I think that getting somebody, I think the someone like a Case Keenum, Joe Flacco, Andy Dalton, I think they make a lot of sense. You draft your quarterback. You say, hey, for at least the first 5-6 games, you're not going to start. You're going to sit behind these veterans. Case Keenum made it to an NFC title game. Joe Flacco's won a Super Bowl, and Andy Dalton's got 15 years of experience. You
yeah.
get to sit behind players who are smart, players who have been successful, players who have been Pro Bowlers in the NFL. They play, they start, and they know with where they are in their careers that they're not going to be there forever. Andy Dalton had some good times with the Saints last year. I think Andy Dalton would be a nice fit. And then, like I mentioned, you get, somebody like Taylor Lumen, who just got cut by the Titans.
Yeah.
He's an offensive lineman. Sign him, get that offensive line short up. And I think the Texans are at least 2-3 years away. And that's if they have a fantastic draft this year. Um, if they go CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, I think that they should go after one of their teammates.
Yeah.
Jackson Smith, Najiba, I want to say, played with Bryce Young. So get somebody like that, get a pairing. And those pairings have been very successful. Jalen Waddle, Tua, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow. You get the idea. Something, pair a team together.
Yeah, definitely. And then I could even see them overpaying for someone like Jacoby Myers just to have a solid
Yeah,
two.
I see
Because
that.
Jacoby Myers is fine. My problem with him in New England is he's a really good inside receiver. He's really good at making slant and like third down catches, and he's a good third down guy. But he doesn't really get any separation. He's not good at getting the ball downfield. So that's who you get with your 12th pick in the draft, that home run guy, and then you sign someone like Jacoby Myers to get him, and then you have plenty. If you want a corner or a safety, there's plenty of corners available that will be cheaper. Jimmy Ward's even a free agent, and then you have someone like CJ Gardner Johnson, James Bradbury's also a free agent. If someone doesn't want to run it back in Philadelphia, and they have to start making some room for Jalen Hurts to get paid. So there's still plenty of options out there in free agency. So you just have to be willing to go out there and spend the money. But I think the Texans can be really good in 2 years. This year, I feel like it's going to be a good foundational year. You're going to get your quarterback. So just plug someone in like Carson Wentz or Jameis Winston in there who needs a chance to play because Jameis is probably out of New Orleans. So could honestly see him taking that 1 year role in Houston trying to prove himself.
I can see that. That's actually I didn't even think of Jameis. Jameis would be a good fit too.
Yeah.
Also has some experience. Also has learned some mistakes that he's made. So I think that's another good fit for him. So Texans, get your quarterback, get some wide receivers, get some weapons so that
Yeah.
whoever the rookie who's taking over the reins can have something to work with. Because besides Damian Pierce, a lot of these receivers that they already have who are already insignificant aren't going to be there. Brandon Cooks, Philip Dorsett, you get the idea.
Yeah, definitely. And then just get a piece at linebacker like a Tremaine Edmonds. Get a piece at safety like Jesse Bates or
A leader on the team.
Hoyer. Yeah, and then or you could go out there get someone like Jamal Dean from Tampa Bay, who'd be a really good cornerback for you, and then get a good tackle like Javon Hargrave. And I think your defense is going to be in business. And I feel like the Texans were actually pretty competitive in some games, and they're in a lot of games they shouldn't have been, and it's been like that for the past 2 years. So I I honestly root for the Texans to be good because they have the uniforms, they have a pretty good name. They're just one of the worst run franchises in NFL history, and I'm hoping DeMeco Ryans can turn that around.